Good morning and welcome to my hobby bench once more. Today's video of old school RC, which is video number 5 in this series, is something that I had an idea about, but I'm not really sure how valid this is going to work out for making a video, but it was to show some old magazines. Now, when I entered the hobby in 1988, the magazine, there were several magazines that I would read and purchase and have subscriptions to. One of the primary ones was RCModeler, which is what I've got on the table today. I was looking through eBay and found a site, found various different vendors that were selling these things. For the most part, these magazines are extremely expensive now compared to what they were list price back then. So it was difficult to find something that was seemed to be somewhat affordable, or at least to try to get for this video series. What I was particularly looking for was ones that were kind of in the era of when I started the hobby, which is 1988 on. Now, one magazine that did catch my eye was this one here that you see, which is from May 1983, because it has all the transmitters on it, because that was very appropriate because I just got that Futaba FG series AM radio, and that radio is actually in here. So really what I'm going to do here with this video series is ask you, how is this something that's of interest for me to just kind of show you some of the things from the old RCModeler magazine, or just forget this completely, because I'm really not sure how I'm supposed to do this. I don't want to just sit here and flip through the entire magazine because I think that could be rather boring, but there are a lot of things in these magazines that I think are very interesting that many of you maybe have not seen. So let's start with just looking at this one here, and I had to put some different filters on my lights so that the glare wouldn't be quite so bad. So this is the May 1983 RCModeler magazine, and it looks like it's got a radio showcase. So here is the table of contents, and I can tell a big difference between from 1983 to 1988, how the format of this has changed. One of the things that I loved so much about RCModeler was the fact that it was just loaded with ads. I didn't read the articles nearly so much. I read Engine Clinic and some certain reviews, but for the most part I was not interested at all in the articles, because it was things like this, the advertisements, and that was back in the days before the World Wide Web, or at least before I had access to it. So there wasn't any online shopping, so the way you would find out about new products was simply these magazines. And of course things like, let's see here real quickly if I can, advertisements like this for hobby shops. All these Fox engines. I think that was just a Fox ad, that wasn't for a hobby shop, but then you'd have things like Tower Hobbies, all these different types of hobby stores. Obviously in Tower Hobbies was a huge thing, and I never heard of Tower Hobbies before 1988. So I have no idea how old they are or how far they went back, but they actually had radios that looked very similar to this. Now the one thing I'm going to show here real quick in this intro video of this potentially new series is I want to show this radio showcase. First I want to show you this. This was another thing that Norbert that has a Connected website added to my package that I didn't see. It was taped to the outside and it got kind of damaged. But he actually included like a little desk calendar, and this one's for a Wankel engine, but it's a monthly desk calendar which is got all these different renderings for each month of the year, which I thought is really, really cool. And right now I'm kind of using them just to as placeholders for this. But so here's a RCM Radio Showcase 1983, and it shows all sorts of radios. And it looks like back in 1983 they all kind of look like this metal boxy type thing. There are very few. Here's an Airtronics one that has a I'll say a little bit more modern look to it. But then Ace RC. Ace RC was in Higginsville, Missouri, and And when I was learning to fly, I was in Knob Noster, the Warrensburg, Knob Noster, Higginsville, Missouri area. And I actually knew a lot of the people that worked at ACE-RC, and I went to their, went up there and bought things. You could actually go drive up there, and they had a little store. And I went up there and bought things from them, and they also had an annual float fly on their lake that's right by their facility. So I used to fly with some of those people. Anyway, so here's some of these radios. This Airtronics. I used to love Airtronics radios. Of course, these predate my entry into the hobby. Here is the Futaba FP7 FG and K. So this is the radio that I've got right here now. So here, look at this. List price $349. That's just wow. Here's a Cirrus Hobbies similar system for $159. So that's probably one of the reasons in one of these other magazines I can show you. That's probably one of the main reasons why I never had one of those Gold Series radios, is because they were astronomically expensive. The very first radio I got is right inside the front cover of this magazine, I believe. Right here. The Attack 4, Futaba Attack 4. That was the first radio I ever purchased, and the list price for that in 1988 was $99. Came with 4 servos, the batteries, came with everything. But for $99, that's the way I went. Now, my next door neighbor, we were both getting into the hobby at the same time. He went with the Futaba Conquest, which was a 6-channel radio. And I think that, at that time, listed at $120. For whatever reason, I decided to not spend the extra $20, and I went with the Attack 4. So anyway, it was a great radio. So I'm not really sure how best to present this series, if it's of interest, if it's going to be worthwhile for me to kind of go through some of these. Now, I bought 3 of these. The third one has not arrived yet, and I believe this is 83. This one's 1989. I believe the third one I bought was from 1997. I found one from 1997. Now, there is a website that I found where they have old model airplanes publications in PDF. And I was looking through them, and I did save some of them. They did have a selection of RCModeler magazines, and of course a variety of other ones. But most of their RCModeler magazines were much older than what my entrance into the hobby was. They were pre-1988. There were a few that I downloaded as PDFs that were more appropriate in my time frame. But I was kind of longed for the days when I had these, because I had a subscription to RCModeler probably from 1988 to at least maybe 2000. And I had kept all of those magazines. I had them all in nice little things to hold magazines, and for many, many years, all the different moves I made, I moved and kept all those magazines. And then at one point there was another move, and I was like, why am I carrying around paper? And stupidly, I started just giving those things away, and I just leave them at the flying field for people to take. And boy, was that a mistake, because between working on the SIG Cadet and touching wood and gluing wood again, and now holding some of these magazines, is really, really starting to recultivate my love and enjoyment for the hobby. And one of the things that I enjoyed a lot back then was this magazine. Now, obviously, a lot of it then was because I was looking to buy things, and of course, all of the ads in here are now just something for nostalgic purposes, because obviously none of them are valid anymore. But it's still interesting, especially some of the ads for fuel, and to see what the prices of fuel were. So anyway, I'm just going to conclude this and say this is just an attempt at more content that I think might be of interest to a few people at least. But if I can come up with a better way to present this, maybe what I do is I just show you the inside cover, and maybe people just select what things you'd like me to talk about that are articles in here, if anything, or maybe just show advertisements. So this one is really going to kind of hinge a lot on comments and responses to this video as to whether this is going to be a viable way to go. Now, the last thing I want to save you with or leave you with is that I was just looking on eBay, and so for the most part, people that are selling these magazines like this, they're selling them one at a time, and many of the people are asking like over $10 for a single magazine. Now these, I managed to, one of them I think I actually bid lower, or I offered a lower price. These I think I got for under $5 each, the 3, but of course then you got like $5 shipping, so it was about $10 each. I just saw an ad, and I placed the order for a fellow had a stack of 8 RCModeler magazines in my time frame, and it was like $16 for those 8 magazines. So I was like, oh yeah, that's the one, I'm definitely buying those. So I bought those. So those are more like, I think there was a couple from 1987, most were from 1988, and then there was one in that stack, 1990 or 1991, I believe. So anyway, I've got some more magazines coming that I think will be interesting for me to at least sit and look at and reminisce and, you know, think about the past or whatever. But I would like to be able to share them with you guys, the audience, the viewers and subscribers, if that's something that you think is a viable option. So please let me know, and thank you for watching this video 5 of Old School RC.